want you to imagine just a nightmare scenario. And not, the kind where you show up to a high school exam in your underwear.
Right, right.
But like a highly specific, devastatingly real professional nightmare. So imagine you're a scientist. You've spent years, maybe the better part of a decade, honestly,
Right.
running these rigorous experiments.
Oh, yeah, collecting massive amounts of data.
Exactly. And carefully drafting this meticulous paper. You finally submit it, and after agonizing weeks of waiting, you get that thrilling email that says, accepted for publication.
I mean, that is the ultimate validation. For an academic, that email it's the finish line.
Yeah, so you pay the required publication fee, which, in modern science is totally normal. You pop some champagne, you proudly update your resume, but then a few months later, the unthinkable happens.
The rug gets pulled out.
Totally pulled out.
Right.
The journal that published your work is exposed as this massive scam.
Yeah.
Your paper is retroactively deleted from all the major scientific databases.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Suddenly your academic credentials are being questioned. Your hard-earned grant funding gets revoked. Basically, a decade of your life's work just vanishes into thin air.
It is the absolute digital erasure of a career. And I mean, the psychological toll of that, it's almost impossible to quantify.
And here's the truly terrifying part, right? This isn't fiction. In the year 2025 alone, this exact academic horror story happened to an estimated 5,000 researchers worldwide.
It's just staggering.
And scammers extracted over $20 million in publication fees from these scientists.
$20 million. I mean, that is a massive amount of money just vanishing into the pockets of con artists who are operating entirely in plain sight.
Right. So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to really investigate this multi-million-dollar underworld of what they call predatory journals and hijacked publications.
Yeah, we really need to dig into this.
We're going to figure out how these scams actually operate, explore the wildly hilarious ways some researchers have tried to fight back, and, look at how we can protect the foundational integrity of science itself.
Because the mechanics of how this fraud operates are, they're incredibly sophisticated. We're talking about a level of deception that really mirrors the complexity of the science it's pretending to publish.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to understand how a $20 million scam can just operate out in the open, we have to talk about the modern economics of scientific publishing. Like, how on earth did scammers find a back door into peer-reviewed science?
Well, it actually starts with a really noble idea, which is the push for open access publishing.
Yeah.
If we go back a couple of decades, the traditional model was entirely reader-funded. So libraries, universities, and individual readers paid incredibly expensive subscription fees just to read the research.
Oh, I totally remember those infamous academic paywalls. You'd click a link to read a study about a new vitamin or something and hit a pop-up demanding $40 just to view a single PDF.
Exactly. And people rightfully push back against that. I mean, a vast majority of that research was publicly funded by taxpayer dollars.
Right, so we already paid for it.
Exactly. So the argument was that the public should have free access to the results. And open access changed the game. It mandated that papers be free to read for anyone, anywhere.
It sounds great.
It is.
Okay.
But publishing a journal, managing the servers, the formatting, the editorial staff, that still costs money. So the financial burden simply shifted.
Yeah.
Instead of the reader paying to access the paper, the author now pays to publish the paper. And this is done through something called article processing charges, or APCs.
So the money flow just completely reversed direction.
Yeah.
The researcher is now handing the journal your credit card.
Yes. And wherever there is a sudden massive flow of money, scammers are going to build a dam to catch it.
Of course.
Devious individuals realized there was a massive loophole here. They could just set up a fake, highly professional-looking journal online, aggressively promise rapid publication, collect those author fees, the APCs, and then just completely bypass the expensive, time-consuming process of peer review.
I have to push back here for a second, though.
Yeah.
Is this just academic gullibility? Like, if I write a novel and traditional publishers reject it and I pay someone to print it anyway, that's just a vanity press.
Right.
I know what I'm doing in that scenario.
Yeah.
Are these researchers just paying for a vanity press because their work isn't actually good enough for a real scientific journal?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is much more insidious than a simple vanity press. You really have to understand the environment these scientists live in. Academics are trapped in a highly systemic, incredibly ruthless publish or perish culture.
Meaning, If you aren't constantly churning out new papers, your career is essentially dead in the water.
Precisely. You don't get tenure, your dissertation gets rejected by your university, your research grants dry up, and in some cases, for international scholars, if you don't secure a publication by a certain date, your visa isn't renewed and you are forced to leave the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your entire livelihood depends entirely on the volume of what you publish and where you publish it.
Okay, so the ticking clock is incredibly loud for these folks.
It's deafening.
Okay.
So put yourself in their shoes. You're under a tight, career-defining deadline. A seemingly professional journal emails you directly, flattering your previous work and offering a fast-track publication process.
It's tempting.
It is a trap born entirely of desperation. And the scammers know exactly who to target. Early career researchers, Ph.D. candidates, and scholars from developing nations are overwhelmingly the primary targets.
Because they face the highest pressure with the least amount of institutional support.
Exactly.
Okay, so desperation is driving the market.
Yeah.
But I'm still wondering, like, exactly how low is the bar for these predatory journals? Because some brave academics actually decided to test the system to find out. And here's where it gets really interesting. I want to talk about the famous 2014 sting operation by an Australian computer scientist named Dr. Peter Van Plu.
A legendary moment in the history of academic frustration, for sure.
Truly. So Dr. Van Plu was just at his wit's end. He was receiving dozens of these unsolicited, spammy emails from dubious journals, basically begging him to submit papers.
Yeah, just clogging his inbox.
Right. So finally, he decided to submit something just to see what would happen. He used a paper originally drafted as an inside joke back in 2005 by American researchers David Maziers and Eddie Kohler.
And we should probably warn the listener about the title of this highly prestigious academic paper.
Yes, fair warning. The title was, "Get Me Off Your Fucking Mailing List."
Straight to the point, no ambiguity there at all.
None. And it wasn't just the title. The entire manuscript consisted of nothing but those 7 words, repeated over and over again, page after page.
It's beautiful.
He even included complex flowcharts and scientific graphs, where all the nodes, the axes, and the data points were just those same 7 words.
A visual masterpiece. I mean, you can just imagine a beautifully formatted bar chart where every single label is just profanity.
Right. So he submitted this absolute joke of a document to the International Journal of Advanced Computer Technology. He figured, a human being would open the PDF, realize they were being mocked, delete it, and finally unsubscribe him from their spam list.
But the human element is exactly what was missing there.
Exactly. A few weeks later, Van Plu gets an email back. The journal informs him that his paper had been subjected to, quote, rigorous anonymous peer review and was deemed excellent for publication.
Of course it was.
Their only feedback, their singular critique of a 10-page profanity loop, was that he needed to add some more recent references and do a bit of minor reformatting. Oh, and they kindly requested a $150 publication fee to put this excellent research online.
What's fascinating here is the core truth this sting exposes. I mean, it's incredibly funny, but it reveals a terrifying reality about the architecture of these scams. There is absolutely zero human editorial oversight. No one is reading these papers. A script or a highly apathetic scammer is just checking to see if a file is attached to the email. As long as the credit card clears, the system will publish literally anything.
And Van Plu wasn't an isolated incident.
Yeah.
In 2017, there was another famous sting where someone submitted a manuscript entirely about midichlorians.
Oh, this one's great.
The microscopic organisms from Star Wars that supposedly give the Jedi their powers. The authors of this groundbreaking biological paper were listed as Dr. Lucas Majorge and Dr. Annette Kin.
Which is just Anakin.
Anakin. Say it out loud.
Okay.
And this paper, exploring fictional space magic by fictional movie characters, was accepted by 4 different predatory journals.
It perfectly illustrates that, the lights are on, but nobody is home.
But that brings us to a massive contradiction. If it is so incredibly easy to expose these journals with Star Wars jokes and profanity-laced flowcharts,
Yeah.
how are thousands of legitimate, highly educated researchers still being scammed out of $20 million?
Because the researchers aren't submitting jokes, they're submitting complex science. And the traps have evolved far beyond simple spam emails.
Okay.
The scammers have built an entire ecosystem of deception, and it all revolves around indexing. We really need to talk about databases like Scopus.
Okay, let's break that down. What exactly is Scopus, and why is it the holy grail for these scammers?
Think of Scopus like a major credit bureau for the academic world, like Equifax or Experian.
Right.
If you want to buy a house, You need a good credit score from a recognized bureau. In academia, if you want a promotion or a grant, your publications usually need to be in a journal that is indexed by Scopus.
I see.
If your paper is published somewhere that isn't indexed to a university tenure committee, it basically doesn't exist.
So the scammers don't just need a fake website. They need to somehow infiltrate the academic credit bureaus. How do they actually do that?
They generally use a few distinct playbooks. The first is corrupting an established journal. Imagine a legitimate journal with a long history, a solid reputation, and proper Scopus indexing.
Okay, so a good track record.
Yeah. Suddenly, the publisher gets greedy. They realize they're sitting on a gold mine with that index status. So they quietly abandon all peer review, accept everything submitted to them, and basically milk their hard-earned reputation for cash before the databases finally catch on and boot them out.
Wow. So a researcher submits to a good journal because historically it was good. They're basically just catching the journal on its villain arc.
Exactly. The next playbook is the long con. Scammers will build a brand new journal from scratch and run it legitimately for years.
Wait, really? Legitimate peer review?
Yes, they do real peer review, they build a real editorial board, all for the sole purpose of eventually earning that coveted Scopus indexing. And the moment they get that seal of approval, they pivot.
Oh, man.
They open the floodgates, drop all standards, and start raking in the APC fees.
It's like building up a pristine credit score for 5 years just to max out 10 credit cards and flee the country.
That is a perfect analogy, yeah. Or if they don't want to wait 5 years, a predatory publisher simply buys an existing, reputable journal from its previous owners and immediately turns it into a dumping ground.
Okay, those are all variations of a bait and switch. But the sources mention another threat that really blew my mind. Journal hijacking or journal cloning.
Yeah, this one is rough.
This sounds like digital phishing, but for PhDs.
It's outright identity theft. In a hijacking, scammers don't bother building their own reputation. They just steal someone else's.
How does that even work?
They specifically target print-only regional academic journals. So think of a journal that's been publishing physical copies out of a small European university for 50 years, but they never really bothered to build a slick, modern website.
So the scammers see a vulnerability, a prestigious name with no digital footprint.
Right, and they build a counterfeit mirror website. They steal the legitimate journal's name, its logo, and its registered ISSN.
And for our listeners, an ISSN is basically a social security number for a publication, right?
Yeah.
It's the unique 8-digit code that identifies a specific serial publication globally.
Exactly. It adds a massive layer of false legitimacy. The scammers will even list the real, unsuspecting editorial board members on their fake site.
That is so wild.
But here is where the terrifying role of search engine optimization comes in. Scammers are experts at SEO. They manipulate Google algorithms so that when a researcher searches for the name of this legitimate historical journal, the fake cloned website ranks higher in the search results than the authentic one.
Hearing all this, I'd be terrified to submit anything. Like, how is a researcher supposed to trust anything they search for? You lose your money, and worse, you unknowingly sign over the legal copyright of your hard work to con artists.
And this SEO manipulation and indexing fraud isn't just a theoretical annoyance. It leads to massive, real-world academic collapses.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this down to the real-world human cost. Because 2025 was a devastating year for this. The sources highlight several massive collapses, starting with the International Journal of Innovative Research and Scientific Studies, or IJRS.
Yeah, that case is a perfect example of the bait and switch. Back in 2023 and 2024, IJRSS was highly respected. It was classified as a Q2 journal.
Meaning it was ranked in the top 50% of journals in its specific field, right? A very solid place to publish.
Very solid. But in 2025, the greed took over. They started aggressively spam mailing researchers with promises of rapid publication.
Okay.
And the sheer volume they began pumping out was physically and editorially impossible to peer review. Within just 6 months, they published over 2,000 articles. They were cramming up to like 500 papers into...
Wait, 500 papers in one issue. How did nobody notice that?
I know, it sounds crazy. Eventually, Scopus caught on, pulled the plug, and retroactively deleted every single article published in 2025.
Oh my God. And the sources note that in Kazakhstan alone, over 1,200 scientists had their promotions blocked and their grants revoked because their publications officially ceased to exist.
Just wiped out.
But how does a supposedly brilliant academic community just hand over their money without realizing the journal is cramming 500 papers into a single issue. Did nobody look at the website?
It comes back to that desperate tunnel vision. Researchers blindly trusted the database over their own eyes. They checked Scopus, saw the journal was still listed as active, and hit submit. They were so focused on getting the indexing credit that they didn't bother to inspect the actual contents of the journal. We saw the exact same blind spot with the International Journal of Environmental Sciences in 2025.
Right. That journal extracted an estimated $800,000 in a single year, charging about $700 per article. And they did this by becoming a literal dumping ground.
Yeah.
Despite having the words environmental sciences in the title, they were publishing papers on machine learning, obstetrics, philosophy, and law.
Again, if any of those authors had just clicked on the latest issue, they would have seen an obstetrics paper sitting next to an environmental science paper and known immediately it was a scam. But they didn't look.
And then there's the heartbreak of the Journal of Posthumanism. In May 2025, Scopus finally discontinued it for accepting massive volumes of papers completely outside its scope. But Scopus didn't list this journal on their monthly public exclusion list.
It was a silent execution. Over 1,000 index articles were retroactively deleted without any warning.
That's devastating.
Researchers had absolutely no way of knowing their work was about to be wiped out until it was already gone. They walked directly into a trap that erased their life's work.
With careers literally on the line, we need to equip our listeners with the tools to survive this predatory landscape. If I'm a young researcher, or even a seasoned one who is just exhausted and trying to hit a deadline, what is the ultimate defensive playbook? Are there red flags I can actually look for before handing over my credit card?
There absolutely are. Before you ever click submit, you need to play digital detective. The first red flag is unsolicited communication.
Like the spam emails.
Exactly. If a journal aggressively emails you out of the blue, flattering your work and promising publication within days, treat it with extreme suspicion. Reputable journals have a backlog of submissions. They do not need to beg for papers.
Okay, so if they're knocking down my door, that's a bad sign. What else?
You must look at the recent issues. Use your eyes. Are they cramming hundreds of papers into a single volume? Is a journal ostensibly about cultural studies suddenly publishing civil engineering papers?
Right.
If the scope is a mismatch, stay far away.
Basically, if it looks like a dumping ground, it is a dumping ground.
Yeah.
But what if the site looks pristine? What if I'm looking at a perfect clone of a real journal?
This is where you have to verify the digital footprint. Do not blindly trust the editorial board names listed on the website because scammers steal real names.
Good point.
Contact one or two board members directly or check their official university profiles to see if they actually list an affiliation with that specific journal.
I mean, that takes maybe 5 minutes of Googling and could save a decade of work.
Furthermore, carefully check the URL. When you search for the journal, do you see multiple results with different web addresses? Look out for domain discrepancies, like a site ending in .org when the real historical journal is .edu. This is how you spot a hijacked clone.
And there are free tools to help with this too, right? You don't have to do it all manually.
Yes, there are 3 major verification tools you should rely on. First, Retraction Watch's Hijacked Journal Checker. It is a continuously updated database of known cloned journals.
Awesome.
Second, check the directory of open access journals, the DOAJ. Specifically, look at their removed list to see if a publisher has been recently flagged for poor practices.
Got it.
And third, always use the thinkcheck.submit framework, which is a fantastic online resource to help evaluate any publisher.
Think.check.submit.org.
And if you are ever in doubt, consult your university librarian or your research integrity officer. They are literally trained to spot these fraudulent networks. Do not navigate this alone.
Now, I want to speak directly to you for a moment. You might be listening to this thinking, well, I'm not a Ph.D. candidate. I'm not publishing a scientific paper tomorrow. Why should I care about some academic turf war over publication fees?
Yeah, why does it matter?
You should care, because predatory publishers do not give a single damn about scientific progress. They just want a credit card. And if we don't protect the integrity of research, the foundational knowledge that we all rely on, the studies that dictate our medicine, our civil engineering, our environmental policies, becomes polluted with unchecked, unverified scams.
It undermines the very fabric of public trust in science. If the public cannot trust the peer review process, the entire authority of the scientific method collapses.
And we all lose.
We do. And you know, this raises an important question. We've talked extensively today about how to spot these traps, how to use checklists and databases to defend ourselves against scammers.
Right, playing defense.
But if this entire $20 million predatory industry is fueled entirely by the desperation of the academic publish or perish culture, perhaps the ultimate solution isn't just building better checklists to spot fake journals.
What are you suggesting?
Perhaps the real solution requires completely dismantling the way we measure a scientist's worth in the first place.
Oh, wow.
If we stop tying a researcher's survival, their visa, their mortgage, entirely to the sheer volume of their publications, we instantly remove the desperation that feeds this entire scam.
That is a massive paradigm shift. Stop treating scientific papers like widgets on an assembly line and start valuing the actual depth and impact of the research again.
Because if we don't change the culture, the scammers will just keep evolving their tactics.
And we're going to keep seeing that same nightmare play out. The long nights in the lab, the thrilling acceptance email, the fee paid, and then the terrifying realization that you didn't just publish your paper. You handed your life's work over to a ghost and watched it vanish into thin air. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and we'll catch you next time.